All right, let's get it going. Episode 11, part two. We're going to start off with Brian Thomas. And Brian Thomas, he's likely going to play this week. He logged 2 limited practices. We talked before about how he has a high ankle sprain. Jacoby Myers stepped in, though, and was pretty productive, even with Travis Hunter out. I mean, I think Brian Thomas is a wide receiver 2 flex, but he's definitely not giving us the value that we thought he'd have at the beginning of the season. So that's unfortunate. Bucky Irving already ruled out on Friday. We talked before about how being back in practice, putting weight on that foot really isn't a major issue. They talked about before, all the way in the beginning, both said that the shoulder was the more concerning issue. So we do need to see him taking contact on that shoulder. I do think we get a final answer on that within the next week. If he's not able to take contact over the next week, then I think they shut them down, get surgery. But if he does, if he is able to take contact, he should be back then week 13. And I think he should provide solid running back numbers into the playoffs. So we'll get a definite answer on that. Now's your chance, though, if you want to offload risk. He's back at practice. You should be able to get some trade offers for him, but it just depends on your risk tolerance. Chris Godwin, also ruled out early. We talked before. He hasn't produced at all this entire season, so I don't know why people would be expecting him to produce even when he comes back. Like, he came back before in those 2 games, he wasn't really productive. So we'll see. There's another player that I do think is worth holding that has missed a lot of the season, though. So I'll talk about him later. In terms of Brandon Aiyuk, another guy who there's no definite timeline for him. They did say that the plan isn't to shut him down for the season, but he might not be there. Like, he might not come back this season. He had a multi-ligament injury. He could still produce when he's back, though, and that's why if you don't have anyone else in that IR slot, I think he's worthwhile to hold there. But if you're trying to stash him on your bench, I don't really think that's worthwhile. People comment on that how his football is massive. I mean, I think it's I guess it's like a full size NFL football, I believe. So that's about it. Aside from that, Ricky Pearsall, I would be putting in my lineup, definitely. We saw Bowers come back and play right away with that PCL sprain. People talked about Kittle just because he's a tight end, and when he came back, wasn't doing that great. But hamstring injuries are a little bit different than PCL sprains. Hamstrings, you do want to ramp back in a little bit more slowly. We saw that with Kittle, we saw that with that Buka, but this isn't the same injury, so that's why I'm okay with putting Pearsall right back into the lineup. Brock Purdy also, I think that they took it really slow, which is good. And I think that he should be a good start if you need a quarterback. Omarion Hampton, weight bearing, back on the field. I do think they need to work on that muscle atrophy, so it's going to take him a little bit of time, but they already have him running drills, and it's only week 11, so I think that week 13 return is realistic, but there could be a split with Vidal, who's been doing decently. They're also missing their 2 offensive linemen, but with Vidal doing decently, maybe missing Joel won't make such a huge difference for Hampton. Definitely still a hold at this point. So keep a hold of Hampton. Aside from that, next up we have Jayden Reed. So we got broken collarbone week 2. The reason why I say the broken collarbone and not the Jones surgery is because the broken collarbone is the limiting factor here. Jones surgery is about 5 to 7 week recovery. We're well past that. The collarbone is like a 7 to 10 week recovery. So 10 plus 2, week 12. Yeah, I think we should definitely see Jayden Reed's IR window opened in the next week or two, and he should be like a flex player in the playoffs. DeAndre Swift, doing well, retook that RB1 spot over Monungai, so I think he's a solid RB2 in your lineup going forward, although he's probably going to be dealing with that groin throughout the entire season. Quinshon Judkins should be fine. I mean, he's fine from that AC joint sprain. The problem is they're just selling out to stop the run because there's no one else to stop. So if they get the offense going, then Judkins should be a much better play, but for right now, he's just like a flex play. Trey Benson, we talked about before. They haven't opened his IR period. He's not practicing, but hypothetically, they should be able to open his IR period, ramp him up pretty quickly. I anticipate that being around the week 13, give or take a week mark. About a week of ramp up expected, but should be a good playoff running back too. Garrett Wilson, unfortunately re-aggravated that hyperextension injury, except they did an inflection. We talked before about how PCL injuries, when the knee is inflection and you take a direct blow to it, and that really puts pressure on that PCL. So I think that's what happened. He's placed on IR. I don't really like how his potential is for the playoffs. Like, I wouldn't drop him just because if he's active, you're probably going to want to play him. So it's just a tough situation there, though. Aside from that, next up we have Rhamondre Stevenson. A lot of people have questions about him more so because Treveyon Henderson, but he was ruled out again with turf toe. We've seen how turf toes can linger, but I think that he should be back. He was logging limited practices, so I think Rhamondre Stevenson should be back within the next 2 weeks. The problem is that we'll probably sap into Treveyon Henderson's touches, even with him doing amazingly. Vrabel has shown a propensity to go with veterans. So it's not that Treveyon Henderson is not going to be viable. It's just I don't think he's going to be a home run hit, which it seems like he is right now whenever Stevenson's out. Aside from that, J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, is likely going to place on IR. I suspect that he had a List Frank injury. So he got a second opinion. He's out for a prolonged period of time. They say IR is on the table. I just don't think he's really going to be viable this fantasy season, unfortunately. He's a great running back. I don't know if any of you guys watched him in college, but he was insane. And when he was in the NFL to start off with, he was like that. And occasionally when he's not dealing with some long-term injury, we see flashes of that. So very unfortunate. Next up, we have Brenton Strange. He is designated return from IR. So that's great. I think that he should be playing week 12, and as the tight end field is not that great, it should be inserted into your lineup if you need him. Jackson Dart had a concussion. He was ruled out pretty early. He's had 4 concussion checks this season and only 1 actually diagnosed, but there's a chance that he misses more than that typical 1-week period, but shouldn't miss more than that in my opinion. Terry McLaurin, this is the guy I was talking about, who hasn't really produced it all this season overall, but when he's active and when he's healthy-ish, he blows up. So you can't really drop him because he's already practicing on the sidelines. And if he comes back, then you got to start him. So once again, this is some guy that I would, even if you don't have an IR spot, I would probably just stash him on your bench. So just keep that in mind. Dalton Kincaid, hamstring injury in week 10. He was questionable at the beginning of the week. That's BS. Obviously, he's not. Not obviously. Aiyuk came back, but Aiyuk was awful the first 2 weeks. So you shouldn't play a player on average if they come back within 1 week of a hamstring. So even if he was active, I wouldn't put him out there. Aside from that, he should be back, though, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Who's next? Calvin Ridley, looking smooth at practice. He's been a disappointment all season, but he's someone that was worthwhile to put in your flex spot. Just see what happens with him. Isaiah Pacheco, MCL, he's been out. He's still going to be out. I think it seems like he had a more significant MCL sprain. Hunt's a decent flex play there without Pacheco to kind of sap touches out of there. DJ Moore, he's playing. He's played 80 consecutive games. I don't think he's missing for the AC joint sprain. Decent start, wide receiver too. Davante Adams should play. He's really amped about this matchup for the NFC first with the Seahawks. So I do think that Davante Adams will be out there, and he's been a really good play. So I would put him as a wide receiver too as well. Drake London returned Friday from this illness, and he has a back condition that he designated as well. I think he'll be playing. I think, illnesses usually they're able to play through as long as it's not the day of that it pops up. And even when it pops up the day of, they can play through it. Jalen Brunson had a grade 1 ankle sprain. I know this is NBA, but we got a lot of people asking about it. Got a lot of friends who are Knicks fans. He shouldn't be out for more than 1 to 2 weeks. Grade 1 ankle sprain, they actually diagnosed it as a grade 1, so that's a good thing. Even though it looked pretty gross on slow replay. Jaylon Johnson had a sports hernia surgery, and he had that back 9 weeks ago. He's practicing again, so he should be able to get back out there, give that defense an upgrade at cornerback. Joe Burrow, 8 weeks, and he returned from a turf toe surgery. Averages 12 weeks, so I do think he will be. And 12 weeks is the early end, by the way. Keep that in mind. So 4 plus week 11. So week 15, I think, is when we possibly see Joe Burrow back. It's your decision whether you want to start a quarterback coming off of turf toe surgery, missing the majority of the season in your fantasy football playoffs. Depends on who you have at quarterback, to be honest. Sam Laporta had a back injury. Usually these aren't this significant. Usually it's a back spasm, but the fact that he is out in practice all weekend, was ruled out, makes me a little bit concerned. Possible disc herniation or something like that. So we got to see kind of how he practices. Quentin Johnston had a full practice, shin bruise, painful, probably limited. I would be wary about starting him, to be honest, but he's a blow-up player. Khalil Shakirfull, practice, had a rib injury. He's the wide receiver 1 in that offense, in my opinion, so you should be starting him. Rico Dowdle had a quad contusion. I don't think it's a quad strain because he wouldn't have played last week otherwise. Each week that'll be better, so I wouldn't be worried about limiting him. Boutte, 2 weeks out, hamstring injury. I would expect him. They said it was a grade 1. He said it was a grade 1 on Twitch, I think. So he should be back next week, in my opinion. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Some people asked me how my dad's birthday went. It was great. Thank you for asking. It's a privilege to be able to spend birthdays with him.